For 10,000 years, the Imperium has built its entire identity on a single belief. A belief so deeply rooted that to question it is heresy, madness, or both. The belief that the Emperor sits upon the Golden Throne, holding back the horrors of the galaxy through sheer divine will. But what if that belief is wrong? What if the Golden Throne wasn't a miracle at all, but the single greatest mistake in human history? What if, in the final days of the heresy, humanity didn't preserve its savior, but entombed him in a machine he was never meant to inhabit? Because when you follow the evidence left behind in scattered records, forbidden archives, and the testimonies of those who have seen the Emperor with their own eyes, a terrifying picture emerges. The Golden Throne isn't a life support system, it is a sarcophagus. And for 10,000 years, humanity hasn't been worshiping a living God, but the bars of his cage. The common story, the one every Imperial citizen can recite without thinking, is simple and clean. During the Siege of Terra, the Emperor is mortally wounded, ascends to the throne, and guides humanity to a new golden age, triumphant, righteous, a rebirth. But the deeper records, the ones buried in Mechanicus vaults and locked behind inquisitorial sigils, describe something else entirely. The scouring wasn't triumph, it was panic. Reports from that era don't speak of a calm, omnipotent ruler guiding humanity. They speak of uncertainty and fear. The throne's output is logged as erratic. The Emperor's presence is described as faint, fragmented, or completely absent. Vox transcripts mention variable responses, inconsistent psychic output, and eventually, complete dormancy. None of that made it into the official accounts, because without the Emperor's voice, the entire philosophical foundation of the Imperium shattered overnight. The Imperial Truth died the moment its architect fell silent, and into that silence, something else rushed in to fill the void: religion. A desperate, weaponized faith that didn't need a thinking ruler, only a sacred corpse no one was allowed to question. To understand the real catastrophe, we have to stop thinking of the Golden Throne as a hospital bed and start seeing it as what it truly is. The clearest clue isn't even the throne itself. It's the Terminus Decree, a sealed order held only by the Grey Knights, locked away since the very birth of their chapter. No one outside their highest ranks is allowed to know its contents. Rumors whisper that it contains a final command, a kill switch for the Golden Throne. But ask yourself, why would a simple life support device ever need a kill switch? You don't write doomsday contingencies for a bed. You write them for a prison, for a weapon, for something so dangerous that one day, it might have to be shut down, no matter the cost. When you look at the surviving Mechanicus records, that picture only gets darker. The prototypes and fragments of design show that these thrones were never built for biology. Devices like Dark Glass, discovered on Mars, reveal the truth. These were webway engines, arcane junctions meant to stabilize passages through the Immaterium. So when the Emperor was placed upon the throne after the siege, it wasn't the execution of a perfect plan. It was an act of desperation. A dying god jammed into a broken webway engine, used as an emergency patch on a system no one truly understood. If the throne is failing, and if the Emperor has been silent for 10,000 years, then why has the Imperium never truly tried to fix him? Because within a century of the heresy, the only people who could have forced those questions, the Primarchs, were gone. In their absence, power hardened. The High Lords of Terra took control, and for them, a silent Emperor was perfect. A talking Emperor could overrule them. A conscious Emperor could expose them. A returned Emperor could erase their entire order with a single command. So the ecclesiarchy rose like a controlled burn. The High Lords needed divine authority, and they found it in the most ironic place imaginable: the writings of Lorgar, the first heretic. The modern Imperial Creed is built on the ideas of the man who most passionately betrayed the Emperor. Would a conscious Emperor allow that? Would a living, thinking mind tolerate watching his dream twisted into a nightmare in his own name? Or is he simply unable to speak. We don't have to rely only on implication and rumor. We have a witness, a son. When Robute Guilliman returned from his millennia of stasis, he eventually went to see the thing at the center of the Empire. He went to stand before the Golden Throne. Guilliman did not go there as a pilgrim. He went as a general, as a son, as a man who desperately needed answers. He expected something, a word, a thought, a spark of recognition. What he found was worse than any silence. Every account of that encounter hints at the same thing. It was not a conversation, it was an assault. Guilliman didn't step into a private audience, he stepped into a storm. The Emperor was there, and not there. Not a singular voice, but a howling psychic hurricane. 1,000 impressions, 1,000 contradictory impulses, all shrieking across the galaxy at once. Fragments of will stretched thin over uncountable light years, guiding ships, burning demons, holding back storms, while the core that once called itself the Emperor flickered like a dying ember. Imagine reaching out to your father and touching a weapon that has been firing non-stop for 10,000 years. Barrel melted, mechanism warped, ammunition long since spent, but still, somehow, forced to cycle again and again. In that moment, Guilliman understood the truth. The Emperor is no longer a man. He is a shattered, overextended psychic engine, a weapon wired into the ruins of a webway gate, forced to fire endlessly, without pause, without rest, without hope of repair. If the throne is failing, if the Emperor is shattered, why hasn't humanity already been swept away? Why hasn't chaos claimed everything? The answer is simple, and far more terrifying than most Imperial citizens could ever imagine. Because the Chaos Gods have allowed the Imperium to endure. To them, the Horus Heresy was not an ending. It was a move in an eternal game. When the Emperor was crippled and wired into his throne, he ceased to be a threat. He became a fixed piece on the board, a lighthouse that can never go out and never be repaired. From that moment on, the Imperium was no longer a rising civilization. It was a bleeding wound, a machine that converts human faith, fear, and flesh into raw emotion in the warp. Every war, every purge, every crusade, all of it feeds the great game. The gods of chaos do not want the Imperium destroyed. They want it to rot. They want it to collapse slowly, beautifully, theatrically. They want it to suffer forever. And for 10,000 years, that is exactly what has happened. The Golden Throne didn't save the Emperor. It ended him. It froze his last moments in place and turned them into a ritual, a machine, a myth that no one dares question. And humanity has spent 10,000 years feeding that machine, maintaining it, repairing it, sacrificing to it, without ever asking what it is actually doing anymore. For millennia, the Imperium has obsessed over a single question: when will the Emperor return? But the real question, the one no one wants to ask, is far darker. What have we been feeding for 10,000 years? If you think Warhammer lore is a puzzle worth solving, subscribe, because there's always more hidden between the lines. Thanks for watching.